Israel continues to rejoice at the freedom of 3 of its daughters. The Army has released video of when the 3 first saw their mothers and FaceTimed their families. That was just a short while after their 15 months of captivity in Gaza ended. A friend of freed hostage Emily Damari described their first moments together.
We hugged her, we cried, we were moved, we shouted and screamed. Seeing her standing like this was the most exciting thing in the world, and fun.
Damari's mother praised her daughter.
I'm delighted to be able to tell you that Emily is in high spirits on the road to recovery. As you will have seen last night, she is an amazingly strong and resilient young woman.
In Tel Aviv, Israelis stopped by Hostages Square to rejoice for those freed, but also remember those still held captive.
And to think of each one as if it were my boy, my girl, my mother, my father. We will not rest and will not be silent until everyone returns.
Everybody needs to remember that, yes, our 3 beautiful girls came home yesterday, but we have 94 more that need to come home, and we won't stop until they all do.
In Gaza, Hamas may have been bombarded and hunted down for 15 months by Israeli forces, but as the ceasefire took hold, Hamas police and fighters quickly emerged and took back control of the streets. As for the citizens of Gaza, many are returning to their homes to find nothing but rubble.
I came to our house to check on it. I found the house completely destroyed and unfit for living. We have no other place to go, so I will have to set up a tent on top of the rubble of my house and live in it.
In Washington, after his inauguration, President Trump greeted former hostages and family members of those still in captivity.
So now the work begins. We won, but now the work begins. We have to bring them home.
Trump is expressing pessimism about Hamas and Israel getting through all 3 stages of the ceasefire without renewed fighting. But he's optimistic Saudi Arabia might well join the Abraham Accords and forge an historic peace with the Jewish nation. Israel's prime minister sent Trump his congratulations and hopes for what America and Israel can accomplish together.
I'm confident that we will complete the defeat of Iran's terror axis and usher in a new era of peace and prosperity for our region. I look forward to working with you to return the remaining hostages, to destroy Hamas's military capabilities and end its political rule in Gaza, and to ensure that Gaza never again poses a threat to Israel.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And our Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem to continue our coverage. So, Chris, what are some of the decisions made by President Trump on day one that affect Israel and the Middle East?
Well, Ephraim, one of the things he did was revoke what's an executive order, and what that had done is sanctioned certain Israeli people in Judea and Samaria. That was done by the Biden administration. He also restored sanctions on the International Criminal Court, and that reversed the cancellation under the Biden administration. He actually placed a 90-day pause on all U.S. foreign development assistance programs to renew their alignment with administration policy. What that means is they don't want any funds going to UNRWA. He also authorized the deportation of visa holders who support ideologies on terrorism or national security threats, and these would include individuals involved in those pro-Hamas protests that we've seen around the country in those riots or the fundraising efforts. And also, this is very important for Israel, he lifted restrictions on the arms sales to Israel, and that includes the supply of 2,000-pound bombs. And what that does is reaffirm U.S. support for Israel's defense. Those munitions arms embargo was something that the Biden administration had done and now being reversed by the Trump administration.
What are some of the reactions to Trump's inauguration from the region?
Well, as you saw in Paul's report, Prime Minister Netanyahu is really reaffirming the U.S.-Israel alliance, and he said the best days of that alliance are yet to come. And he also thanked President Trump for assisting in the recent ceasefire and hostage deal with Hamas. On the other hand, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, he congratulated Trump. He promoted the two-state solution. That, however, is unlikely given that not too long ago the Knesset voted against a two-state solution. In the Gulf, some of the states, like the UAE, they want to advance the UAE and U.S. relations, and we heard similar statements from Bahrain, Oman. The big question, and it was raised in Paul's report, is whether or not Saudi Arabia will join the Abraham Accords. President Trump thinks is going to happen. And I think there are many people here in Israel and in the region that think that Saudi Arabia will join the Abraham Accords.
Any fallout to report after the first few days of the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel?
Well, you see, there's still jubilation here in Israel about the 3 hostages that have been released, but also caution about the other 95 hostages, both dead and alive, that people are hoping and praying that will be released. Right now, you have the talks by the Mossad chief, the Shin Bet head. They're on their way to Cairo to talk with Egypt's intelligence chief about the Gaza ceasefire. And those talks will be talking about the security arrangements around the strategic Philadelphia corridor that's along the Gaza-Egypt border. And that's where Hamas actually brought many of their arms and weapons in. And Hamas officials say that there will be 4 Israeli women hostages that will be freed in return on Saturday for more Palestinian prisoners.
All right.